You like spy movies, Mr. DeVere?
Nowadays, they're all a little serious for my taste. The old ones. Marvelous. Give me a far-fetched theatrical plot any day.
The old Bond movies. Oh, man. Oh, when I was a kid, that was my dream job. Gentleman spy.
I always felt the old Bond films were only as good as the villain. As a child, I rather fancied a future as a colorful megalomaniac.
What a shame we both had to grow up.
Matthew Vaughn's Kingsman: The Secret Service is loosely based on the comic book The Secret Service by Mark Millar and Dave Gibbons, but it's actually very different from the original graphic novel. For one thing, there's no Kingsman in the Kingsman comic. The spies in the book, Gary and his uncle Jack, instead of Eggsy and his dad's colleague Harry, work for MI6. Although they both spring from the same basic concept, Kingsman is much more indebted to old movies than the comic with which it shares part of a title. Vaughn's movie is littered with references, homages, and in-jokes to the history of spy cinema, and particularly to the James Bond movies that Colin Firth and Sam Jackson's characters profess to loving in that scene. Let's see if we can find all of them in this edition of Easter Egg Hunt. Since we already watched a clip from it, let's start with that dinner scene. Bond's been sharing weirdly uncomfortable dinners with bad guys since his very first movie, Dr. No. Kingsman is particularly inspired by the Bond movies of the 70s and early 80s starring Roger Moore, who loved to share a nice meal with megalomaniacs, like this bit from The Man with the Golden Gun.
Ah, mushrooms. I'll have the Big Mac, please.
Great choice.
In that same dinner scene from The Man with the Golden Gun, Bond makes particular note of Scaramanga's excellent wine.
Excellent. Slightly reminiscent of a 34 Mouton.
Then I must add it to my cellar.
Bond does this all the time, noting the rare vintages of exotic alcohols. So do the spies in Kingsman.
1962 Dalmore.
45 Lafitte.
Napoleonic brandy.
That last one might actually be a double reference, since the name of the hero on the classic 60s spy TV show The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was Napoleon Solo. But let's go back to that scene between Eggsy and Michael Caine playing Arthur, the head of the Kingsman spy agency. First of all, the whole notion of Kingsman, a spy agency founded by a bunch of wealthy tailors, is a clever kind of retcon explanation for why a spy like James Bond is always so well dressed. When the front of your spy group is a bespoke tailor, you get lots of cool free clothes. The Kingsmen also wear those cool glasses, and that's a reference too to Harry Palmer, the British spy who appeared in a series of movies in the 60s and was played by, yep, a young Michael Caine. Colin Firth's character in the film is even named Harry Hart, a second nod to Harry Palmer. Like in the Bond movies, everyone in Kingsman has a code name. In Bond, the boss is named M, the quartermaster is Q,
And you might be, this is 007.
and Bond himself is, of course, Agent 007. In Kingsman, the names are based on the Knights of the Round Table. Michael Caine, the boss, is Arthur, Mark Strong, the gadget guy, is Merlin, and the other spies are codenamed Lancelot, Galahad, and so on. When one of the members of Kingsman dies, the other members nominate a replacement, and the winner of a training competition is given the fallen spy's codename. And this is a sneaky Bond reference too. For years, Bond fans have tried to explain how Bond could look like 6 different guys and have adventures in 6 different decades while barely aging. One of the most popular fan theories about Bond continuity is the idea that James Bond isn't the guy's real name, it's a code name passed from one spy to the next. So Sean Connery's James Bond quits or dies, and MI6 brings in George Lazenby and gives him the name James Bond.
This never happened to the other fella.
Exactly the way after the previous Lancelot dies, Roxy becomes the new Lancelot in Kingsman. Kingsman agents get a whole arsenal of cool gadgets, and almost all of them are direct references to gadgets from Bond movies through the years. The knife-tipped shoe from Russia with Love. The pen with poison in it, Moonraker. The watch with knockout darts, Moonraker also. Cigarette lighter hand grenade, Tomorrow Never Dies. Super powerful ring, Die Another Day. It's not as if Kingsman: The Secret Service is a one-to-one Bond homage. The movie doesn't have an elaborate title sequence, and it doesn't have its own theme song where a British pop star sings about the Kingsman, thank God. A lot of the movie is about Eggsy's training to become a spy, and no Bond movie Even Casino Royale, which is supposedly the Bond origin story, has ever shown James Bond's training. And when Eggsy orders a martini, he asks for
gin, not vodka, obviously, stirred for 10 seconds while glancing at an unopened bottle of vermouth. Thank you.
While Bond loves vodka martinis, and he prefers them shaken, not stirred.
That good, you should have one.
Still, almost the entire movie is one Bond nod after another. There's skiing, skydiving without a parachute, a bad guy lair inside a mountain, a henchman with metal appendages, an army of identically dressed goons. And just like every Bond movie, Kingsman ends with Eggsy having sex with a beautiful woman in a very strange place. But wait, there's more! Speed round time!
In the old days, they had a phone in the heel as well. See the film Trading Places. How about Nikita? Pretty woman?
Oh, like in My Fair Lady.
Parkour!
In their final confrontation, Sam Jackson's Richmond Valentine says to Harry,
You know what this is like? It's like those old movies we both love. Now I'm gonna tell you my whole plan, and then I'm gonna come up with some absurd and convoluted way to kill you, and you'll find an equally convoluted way to escape.
then he says this isn't that kind of movie, and he kills Harry. That's what makes Kingsman so fun. It both embraces and honors all these old elements of spy movies and reinvents them for the 21st century in a way that feels fresher than some of the recent Bond movies. Plus, if you've seen the trailer for Kingsman: The Golden Circle, then you know Harry isn't dead after all. So maybe this is more like one of those old movies than Richmond Valentine wants to admit. For Screen Crush, I'm Matt Singer.